My name's Matt, Scotian Canadian. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you like this video. What's going on, guys? It is great to be back with you, and it is time that we do a state of the franchise for the Montreal Canadiens. We're going to go over team stats from last season. We'll breeze through that right quick. I'll give you my opinions on how I think the Habs could have made the playoffs last year, and a couple key areas where they definitely need to improve. And then from there on out, we will move on to the Habs cap structure, a cap structure that is very well managed by our general manager, Marc Bergevin. This is one of his strong suits. And with that, going through the cap structure, first forwards, then defense, then goaltending. We'll also look at individual player stats and maybe a little bit of previews of how I project them moving forward. So let's jump right into it. The Montreal Canadiens last season finished with a record of 44, 30, and 8. Good enough for fourth in the Atlantic Division, just behind the Boston Bruins and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I believe we were 4 points behind the Maple Leafs in the standings. It was also good enough for 9th in the Eastern Conference and 14th in the NHL. This is a team that played the first 2 months of the season without Shea Weber, their captain, their number one defenseman. It's also a team that left quite a bit of money on the table last season because there just wasn't significant pieces that Bergevin thought would be worth spending that money on. So they went into the season with some cap space. Also like to point out here, we were 4-8 in overtime, so a little below average in that sense, but 3-0 in the shootout. You don't want to face the Habs in the shootout. We have a very young core of players. I am in love with the makeup of this team. I love the job Bergevin is doing. Lots of really cool players on this team, and we'll get into that and my opinion on that. Let's go over some more team stats here. Goals for on the season, 246 goals for the Habs. That's 13th, good enough for 13th in the league. That's great for a team that a ton of people said could not score goals heading into the 2018-19 season. Definitely showed a lot of people wrong in that sense. Goals against, 236 for 19th in the league. Power play, 30th ranked in the NHL, despite having quite a bit of power play talent and honestly quite a bit of skill on this team. We are a young team, so definitely room to grow there. 13.3% definitely isn't cutting it, and that's a part of the that's a factor of a team that's going to get you far in the playoffs. You need that to go far in the playoffs once you get in. The coaches know that this needs to improve. Bergevin has had chats with them. They know that this definitely needs to improve for next season. And it's on Bergevin as well to possibly tinker with this roster to improve the power play. So yeah, 13.3% definitely isn't cutting it, and we need to see this improve because this is one of the main reasons why the Habs missed the playoffs last season, because the power play was not reliable for us at all at any point during the season. Moving on, the penalty kill, 80.9% on the season, finishing kind of average in the league. And that's with Shea Weber missing the first 2 months, and he's a big part of that penalty kill. Once he came back, he was a stud on the PK. So 80.9% there for 13th in the league. And shots for the Montreal Canadiens, 2,796 for third in the NHL in shots for. Now, shooting percentage, 8.8%, 21st in the NHL. So maybe quite a few of those shots that Montreal's throwing on net aren't of quality, but the thing is, they're making the goalies work for the saves. They pummel the goalies with a ton of shots, and hopefully they can improve that shooting percentage and see some even more offensive output in terms of goal scoring from them next season. Shots against, 2,548 for 19th in the league. Now we'll move on to another key factor that I think would have made the difference for the Montreal Canadiens in making the playoffs last season. Our record versus the Atlantic Division. Now, starting off, Boston, we were 2-2 against them, and that's quite impressive considering the season that they had and how far they went in the playoffs. They're an elite team. They got a core of guys that are in their late 20s, early 30s. Guys like Marchand, Bergeron, Krejci. These are big parts of the team, and of course, you still have Zdeno Chara, their captain, their leader, over 40, but still putting in top 4 shutdown minutes for them. I was ready. I was ready for the Boston Bruins to become Stanley Cup champions. It was close. I was nervous. As Habs fans, we dodged a bullet big time. I did not want the Bruins having those bragging rights, but at the end of the day, they deserved to be there. They had a great playoffs. A ton of their young guys stepped in. David Pastrnak as well. Charlie McAvoy, Torrey Krug looked really good for them. Tuukka Rask had an absolutely fantastic playoffs and took it all the way to a Game 7. It was close. It was a great NHL playoffs this year. And yeah, end of the day, I don't have a lot of bad things to say about the Bruins. As much as they're our rival, I cannot stand them. I have respect for them because they are a well-ran franchise. They draft well, they develop well, they commit to their core players, their stars, and I like that. Consistency, lots of stability in that franchise, and hate to say it, but it's true. Organization to model yourselves after, just like we are, just like the Montreal Canadiens. We're also run fairly well, and that's why I'm happy with Marc Bergevin in charge of this team. Anyway, back to the point. Our record versus the Atlantic Division. Impressive against Boston, 2-2. Detroit, 4-0. You got to expect those wins against one of the worst teams in the league. Detroit, they're moving forward, they still have some cap issues. Stevie Y taking over. They're going to build through the draft like he did in Tampa Bay. He's great with contract negotiations. Good to see him back in Detroit. But last year, 4-0 against them. You got to expect that. They were one of the worst teams in the league. Same with Ottawa, 3-0-1 against them. Got to expect those wins, and hopefully we can get them again next year. Not expect them. You still have to play every team in the NHL. The parity is absolutely insane. Every team in the NHL is hard to play against, good to play against, but these are wins we need, and it was good to see us get them last year. Then we moved to Florida, 3-1. We won that little mini rivalry last year after the stuff that happened with Domi early on in the season with Ekblad, 3-1 against them. And outside of goaltending, they're a pretty damn good team, the Florida Panthers. If they get a goalie like Bobrovsky, like they're rumored to, they're going to be hard to deal with. They got Quenneville now as their coach. That's going to be interesting to see what he does with them. Then Buffalo. This is where we could have improved. The Buffalo Sabres, we were 1-2 against them, and it was early in the season where we struggled against them, couldn't get wins, and came back to bite us in the end. Those a couple wins there could have made the difference with us making the playoffs. Same goes for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the games we had against them. 1-2 on the season. That has to improve next season, especially considering the games we played against them. We were in all of them. There was the one where we had that lead in the third period, and they stormed back and got it back from us. That's unacceptable. It can't happen against a rival like that. But we looked good against the Maple Leafs for the most part, and with all the troubles that they have coming forward with their cap and losing important players due to their poorly managed cap structure, I'm hoping the Montreal can swing the record next season against the Leafs in the positive direction, and I'm confident about it. I really think they can, and we'll need them to do that to make the playoffs. Same goes for the Tampa Bay Lightning. We played some great and entertaining games against them last season, but 1-3 just isn't good enough. You'd like to at least go 500 against some of the better teams in the league, the ones that you'd think would finish ahead of you in the standings. So that's a key area where I think the Habs could improve for next season. So last year, we'll go month by month, kind of how the team trended through the season. In October, 6-3-2. They were scoring a ton of goals, playing fast. Gallagher was going off. Tatar playing so strong. Domi and Drouin with a ton of confidence together and gaining that chemistry early in the season. Absolute blast to watch to start the season. Then we go into November, 5-6-3. Carey has some struggles, specifically towards the end of November, some fatigue problems. But then he comes back strong as can be, and he was that throughout the rest of the season. Great season for Carey Price, and it coincided with Weber returning, and Weber was an absolute beast when he returned to the Habs, and we will get into that later on. Just so fortunate to have this guy as our captain. 10-5 in December, 10-5-0. Then we move into January, 7-4-0. February, bit of an average month there, 6-5-2 for the Habs. Then we go into March, 8-6-1. We had a really, really strong end to the season. Carey played a ton of games, held us in a lot of those games. It was a fun ride to the end of the season. nerve-wracking, and unfortunately we didn't accomplish our goal, but still 8-6-1 in March and then 2-1 in April. I feel like pretty sure the Habs won 9 out of their last 10 games or around there to end the season and still couldn't make the playoffs. Finished with 96 points. 1 out of the last 9 seasons that a team with 96 points does not make the playoffs. So overall, great development year for the Montreal Canadiens, which I mentioned early on in my Atlantic Division preview before last season. It could end up being a development year for the Habs where they are so young, but we are trending in the right direction. I love how this team is structured all around down the middle now. It's great to be able to say that we have some depth down the middle. It's absolutely huge. Depth on the wings as well. Our defense, I like how our defense is structured on the right and left side, but the right specifically is quite deep. The left, of course, could use some work. We would be looking to improve the left side D, get a younger but experienced left-hand offensive defenseman that can help that power play. Hopefully on a decent contract, someone that can play with Weber, eat up a lot of big minutes. And you also look to the right side, maybe a sniper, a power forward, a right winger, right shot. That could help us as well. And the backup goaltending situation needs to be addressed as well. You can take a look at some of my other videos on these subjects. Make sure to check out my channel and subscribe if you like my content. Now, let's get into the Habs cap structure, and we will start with the forwards. First and foremost, Jonathan Drouin is our highest paid forward at $5.5 million per season, and he is paid that for the next 4 seasons. This is a guy that we know has a ton of skill, drafted 3rd overall just a few years ago. Francophone guy, under a lot of pressure. He started off the season very strong, hovering around point per game for a quarter of the season, maybe closer to the halfway point of the season, just under a point per game. Tons of chemistry with Domi, but then he dropped off in the second half, had some consistency issues, but even still through that, had some flashes of brilliance. He can stick handle, he can dangle. He's a bigger body, which you wouldn't expect. He's 24 years old. He's got a ton of potential. I can see him ending up with similar totals at some point to what Domi had last year. But let's get into Drouin's stats last year. 53 points in 81 games. That's 18 goals, 35 assists. That's despite having a very slow last 20 games of the season. And he finished with 0.65 points per game. That's nothing to scoff at the NHL level, especially at the age of 24. So $5.5 million per season is a great contract to have this guy locked up on. I think he's with the Habs for the foreseeable future, and I look forward to watching him play. Former Halifax Moosehead, still surreal to me that he's a Hab, and I think he's going to get to where he needs to go. We'll have to wait and see. Next year is a big year for him. After that, we have Thomas Tatar at $4.8 million. Quick note here, Vegas is paying $500,000 of his contract. That is massive. Unbelievable that Bergevin was able to pull that trade off, not only getting Tatar, consistent 25 goal scorer, and Nick Suzuki, but a 2nd-round pick, and he got Vegas to retain some of Tatar's salary, and Vegas is now dealing with cap issues. So, a very impressive trade by Marc Bergevin. I think you could call it a fleece job. Not gonna lie. So he's getting paid $4.8 for the next couple years. He's 28 years old. Last year, 25 goals, 33 assists. 58 points. That is great value at $4.8 million. After that, we have Andrew Shaw at $3.9 million for the next 3 years. What a fantastic contract for a 27-year-old right winger, right-handed shot. He had a great season last year. Career year, 47 points. That's 19 goals, 28 assists, 0.75 points per game for Andrew Shaw. He only played 63 games last year and put up 47 points. Lots of talk about possibly shopping him, but this is a guy I want to see play through his prime. He's a leader on this team. He plays hard. He's gritty. Of course, he has the concussion issues in the past, and you got to worry about that. And his value is incredibly high right now, but I like what he brings to this team, and that's just such a great contract. Not a contract you like to see leave the team. Brendan Gallagher. What heart and soul of this organization, one of the hardest worker on this team, small guy, but relentless on pucks, gritty down in the corners. He's paid $3.75 million for the next 2 years. Another steal of a contract. And this guy, he is going to get paid in a couple years, and I want to be in a position to be able to pay him and keep him around. In no way, shape, or form do I want to see this team in a position to be losing a guy like Brendan Gallagher. He is 27 years old. He's an assistant captain on this team. A consistent 30 goal scorer. Last year, 33 goals for Brendan Gallagher, 19 assists for 52 points. He keeps getting better and better every year, despite, and that release keeps getting better despite the broken hands. Love what he brings to the team, and what a great contract to have him on. No reason why I can't see him hitting 35 or 40 goals. He's just entering his prime, and it's unbelievable how he's developed as a Montreal Canadian. We move on there. We have Paul Byron, assistant captain. He's at $3.4 million, recently signed an extension. That goes for the next 4 years. Very interesting contract there, especially where he's 30 years old, but he's a consistent 20-goal scorer. He did deal with some injury problems last year. Played 56 games, but still got 15 points, or 15 goals and 16 assists for 31 points. So he was on pace for that 20-goal mark that he's got the last couple seasons. Now, this is interesting. Great contract, great value for $3.4 million, but at his age, I know he's a big part of the leadership. Maybe a year or two down the line, does Bergevin shop him? Because he will hold quite a bit of value right now as a 20-goal scorer, and Montreal has a surplus of left-handed, or of left wingers now. Love what Paul Byron brings. He's so fast, so good defensively, always stripping pucks off guys and flying up the net. He's shown some ability to play make as well last season. So yeah, great value, $3.4 million. Another great contract by Bergevin. Then we have Max Domi. He's got one more year left at $3.15 million per season. And then he'll be an RFA. This is another guy we need to be in a position to lock him up long term. What a fantastic season for Max Domi. 72 points, 28 goals. Struggled to score goals the last couple seasons, but he had 18 in his rookie season. It's no surprise to me that he got the goal scoring touch back. Maybe not to that extent, but 28 goals, 44 assists. What a season. 0.87 points per game for Max Domi. Plays with some grit, plays with some attitude, great work ethic, and the Habs must be in a position a year from now to lock him up long term. He's definitely going to be earning a raise somewhere in that $8 to $9.5 or so million range. And yeah, I'd still, once again, a reason why I love the makeup of this team. Ty Domi's son, a Leafs legend. His son plays for the Montreal Canadiens. It's unbelievable. The memes alone are incredible. And you know, there's a ton of Leafs fans, whether they want to admit it or not. It gets on their nerves that he is a Hab. And he's wearing 13 for Matt's Sundin. I love it. Then we go to Philip Deneau. Recently voted, finished 7th in Selke voting. He's finally starting to get respect around the league. Paid $3.08 million for the next 2 seasons. What a contract. Then he'll be an unrestricted free agent. Another guy you want to be in a position to keep. He's shown the upside to be a legitimate second-line center. And honestly, he has been our first-line center the last few seasons, matching up against top competition, and continues to improve. His first couple seasons with the Habs, 40 points, but last season, Philip Deneau finished with 53 points. That was 12 goals and 41 assists, so he showed some ability to get that playmaking going. He's not flashy, but he gets the job done. Not only that, he finished at 55% in the faceoff dot, 7th in the NHL in faceoffs, 882 of them. That puts him in elite company, and it's no surprise he got some Selke votes this year. Great to see him getting that recognition around the league. He also led our forwards in minutes. Very impressive for Philip Deneau. And that's great value, 3.083 for a guy who had 53 points last year. That's unbelievable. So for the next 2 seasons, great deal, but he's going to earn a big pay raise, and I want to be in a position to pay him that, and I think we will be. Following that, we have Dale Weiss. Now, this is one of the assets on our team, Dale Weiss, that not really sure what he's going to offer to the team moving forward. Maybe he's a leader in Laval. He's at a $2.35 million cap hit. Then he's an unrestricted free agent after next season. So that's not too bad to deal with. Maybe he hits waivers. Maybe Bergevin tries to deal him away and free up that cap. But nonetheless, that's not too hard to deal with. Then you have Jordan Wheel, $1.4 million for the next 2 years. Love that contract extension. He helped improve our power play towards the end of the season. He was great in the faceoff dot at 55%. Once he didn't take too many, but he was good in there when he needed to be. Great addition by the Habs. Love that he got earned that extension. Good contract as well. Great bottom six guy moving forward, and he's a right-handed shot, so that's can't have enough of those. Then you have Matthew Pekka. I feel like him and Jordan Wheeler are going to battle for a spot in the team through training camp, and it'll be interesting to see who wins it. I'm going to tip my cap to Jordan Wheeler at this point, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe there's a trade in place for Matthew Pekka, late round pick, because there was interest in him last season. He's paid 1.3 mil just for one more season. After that, Nate Thompson, love that he got extended. $1 million a year for a veteran center, 35 years old, tons of playoff experience, great in the face-off dot, 55%. He won 119 with us with that short stint that he had with us towards the end of the season. Great guy in the locker room, a leader, so he believes that this team's going to do something special. Then Nicolas Deslauriers, he's going to have to impress, I think, in training camp to stick around, but nonetheless, he's one of our most physical defensemen. 135 hits last year, big body, but he skates well, and he finishes his checks. You need a guy like that through the playoffs, so maybe he does stick around. I feel like he would get picked up on waivers, but yeah, so Nicolas Deslauriers just paid under $1 million, and then he's a restricted free agent after next season. Then we have Jesperi Kotkaniemi, who finished with 34 points as the youngest player in the NHL. He played 79 games, 11 goals, 23 assists. What a season from Kotkaniemi. Looked very comfortable in the league. Some energy fatigue issues towards the end of the season, but to start the season, didn't look out of place at all. Showed flashes of brilliant skill, sound defensively, great skater, heavy on his feet, hard to budge, and when he fills out, he's going to be some good. Then we have Ryan Poehling, paid under $1 million, had a great end of the season. Now, I think we got to be cautious about Ryan Poehling here. He had the 4 goals against Toronto, but let's be honest, it was a depleted Toronto roster. Let's not pile too much high expectations on this kid right out of the gate. He's likely going to be a great player, two-way forward. He's known for being responsible defensively, but I also think his offensive upside is a lot better than people think. If he can become anywhere near defensively as good as what Danault is, that's a massive win. And if he can eventually hit those 60, 70 point totals, that'd be crazy. Love that Montreal has a ton of depth. So yeah, him and Kotkaniemi are both 2 years left on their entry-level contracts, paid just under $1 million. Future of the team right there. Charles Hudon was qualified. His status with the Habs is kind of up in the air. He may be moving on at this point. He's a restricted free agent. Montreal did qualify him. We'll have to keep an eye on that situation. Then we have Arturi Lehkonen and Yoel Armia as restricted free agents. Bergevin has recently said they'll both be with the Habs next year. Would be curious to see if Bergevin would shop them a little bit, because both of them would hold value. Very strong third-line centers, defensively sound. Lehkonen, great player, but I don't think either of these guys have earned massive contract raises yet. Lehkonen's 23 years old. Last season, he had 11 goals, 20 assists for 31 points. I think he has a higher ceiling to reach as a guy who can finish plays. He seems like he was always in a good position to get shots off and get into scoring areas. He forechecks hard. Big body, proven and sound defensive forward. But I can see him falling somewhere in the $2 to $3 million mark, and maybe Bergevin goes and tries to lock one of these guys up long term at that price, and end up with another Gallagher contract per se. Keep an eye on that. They both have arbitration rights, Armia and Lehkonen. Hopefully it doesn't go that far. And of course, Armia, 26 years old. He had 23 points last season. Showed flashes of brilliant skill, big body, right-handed shot. Love what he brought to the team this year. Another guy that should fall around the $2 million range. Be curious what type of term he gets. But another guy that would hold some value. So love the way this cap is structured by Marc Bergevin. He does such a fantastic job with his cap. Some great contracts on this team. And really, we're going to get into the defense. And before I do, one of the only kind of, really the only rough contract on this team for the Habs is Karl Alzner. Bergevin overpaid for him a couple years ago. We were in a bad spot when Markov lost. Karl Alzner is paid $4.625 million for the next 3 years. I don't think Montreal should buy him out, because then that spreads out that cap hit. Even though it's a little less, it spreads it out quite a bit longer. And I feel like we should just wait it out with Karl Alzner and kind of let him and his agent do some business and maybe find himself a fresh start somewhere if possible. At some point, maybe Bergevin does add an asset to get that cap off the books, but right now it's not hindering us too bad, so can't complain there. And after that, really, it's just Dave Mason, who we bought out last year after we acquired Armia in that trade. He takes up 1.36 of the cap, just for one more season. That's not too hard to deal with. Yeah, the rest are positives really for this lineup. Now let's get into the Montreal Canadiens defensemen. Our highest paid defenseman is our captain, one of the best captains in the league, one of the most well-respected leaders in the league. None other than Shea Weber. How good is that trade looking now? This guy, absolute stud last year after he came back from that injury. What he did, we can't state it enough how impressive that was. For him to come back after knee surgery and foot surgery and have the season that he did without a full summer's worth of training, to be able to do that, absolutely impressive. It just shows that he is an elite caliber athlete, and we are fortunate to have this guy on our roster. Absolute stud out there, and he is going to be a pillar to this organization for years to come, be a big part in developing our young players and showing what it is to be a true pro, because he is definitely that. Two-time gold medal Olympic winning, won the World Cup both times as Montreal's #1 defenseman. This guy is absolute no joke. He may be 33, but he plays a style of game that is sustainable into his mid to late 30s. Look at a guy like Chara. Weber is on that level. He takes care of his body. This is a guy that is going to age well and be a solid player. He's all about that hockey IQ, his defensive hockey IQ, always in the right position. He's great at cutting guys off, angling guys off, making plays easy for his goaltender. He's got a big body, throws some hits, blocks a ton of pucks, great on the penalty kill. Not only that, he has that offensive prowess as well. The shot is an absolute cannon, one of the best shots in the league in terms of the speed of it. And not only can he blast that puck over 100 miles an hour, but it's accurate. He loves to shoot it low, and he'll shoot it high, pick corners. He also will find shooting lanes at all times. Similar to Brent Burns, he's constantly throwing the puck through shooting lanes, wristing it on net, looking for that tip. He'll pinch when he needs to. I can't say enough good things about Shea Weber. Absolute stud. Once again, one of the reasons why I love the makeup of our team. Canada's #1 defenseman, Shea Weber, is a Montreal Canadian. He's our captain. And he's making $7.86 million per league. A lot of people say that this is a bad contract. It's absolutely not. He is absolutely 100% worth that. He makes it until he's about 41. And the way that it's structured, he's paid the most money early in these years. The last 3 years, I believe, he's only making $1 million. And in the last 4 years of the contract, I think it's somewhere around $6 million total in real dollars he's making. The cap hit remains the same. But if he decides to retire early, all cap penalties go to the Nashville Predators. It affects Montreal. It does not affect Montreal at all. And furthermore, if Montreal wants to trade him later on in his career, which I doubt they'll want to do, where he's making such a low amount of money in real dollars, there could be a team that's a floor team in the NHL that'd be willing to take on that cap hit, where they don't have to actually pay him the real dollars. It's a major misconception that this is a bad contract for the Montreal Canadiens. The trade with the Nashville Predators, absolutely fantastic. I loved PK Subban's days in Montreal, but Shea Weber, you cannot go wrong. And apparently Nashville's looking at now possibly trading Subban to free up some cap space. They got some guys to sign. Subban's contract really isn't that good. He's going to be a UFA, unrestricted free agent at the age of 33, I believe. He really struggled last season defensively and offensively. He really needs to rebound next season. He very well could. It could have just been a one-off season for him struggling. He dealt with some injuries. We all know what he's capable of. A great shot, great up the ice, great skater, powerful skater, great on his edges. But cannot go wrong with Shea Weber. Love the contract. So he's our highest paid defenseman, and he'll be our number one right-handed defenseman, obviously. His stats last season, when he returned, Shea Weber finished with 14 goals, 19 assists for 33 points, 58 games, 0.57 points per game for Shea Weber. That's absolutely unreal. He scored some clutch goals for the Habs, some bombs from the point, some absolute snipes, teeing the puck up. And the more we get guys like Domi and Drouin hooking him up on the power play, the better. I think having another threat on the right side of the ice would help as well on the right side, on their offhand, like a left-handed shot. Whew. So following Shea Weber, we have Jeff Petrie. He's 31 years old, $5.5 million per season for Jeff Petrie for the next 2 years. That'll bring him to the age of 33, and he'll be an unrestricted free agent. I think Montreal will likely hold on to him. He's a leader for this team. Career year last year, 13 goals, 33 assists for 46 points. Played a full season. He is our most physical defenseman as well, with 190 hits in those 82 games. Actually, our most physical likely would have been around the same, actually, with Weber if he played a full season, because he had 129 hits on the season. Petrie with 190. He's an absolute beast out there. Ton of blocks as well for Jeff Petrie. 123 blocks for Jeff Petrie. Just absolute stunning season for him. He's such a good skater. He seems to be getting better at his skating every single year. His vision on the ice is getting better. Yeah, love his contract. That's a very fair price for Jeff Petrie. Feel like they're going to hold on to him for a bit here, and maybe dangle him next year where he'll be an upcoming UFA. But right now he's a leader of this team, and really good for us on the right side. So then we have Karl Alzner. I already talked about him. You would assume Bergevin would likely be looking to move that contract, give him a fresh start somewhere else if possible. But if not, I think we should just wait on him and hang on to that 4.625 for another year. Buying him out wouldn't be wise, because then that would stretch out a ton of wasted cap over like 4 to 5 years. Don't know the exact details, but it wouldn't be a good situation. Following him, Brett Kulak recently re-signed $1.85 million per season for the next 3 years. This could end up being an absolute steal of a contract. Brett Kulak, 6 goals, 11 assists in 57 games last year. He played some very good defensive hockey. On our left side, he was second most in time on ice with 1751. Played really, really good for us last season. Filled in the top 4 really for us on the left side, so that could end up being a steal. 1.85 for a guy like that. He's only 25 years old, entering the prime of his career. Maybe he's just a 5'6" defenseman in the end, but I don't like writing guys off I don't like writing guys off or pigeonholing them as to reaching their peak at that age. I feel like players at that age have more to give, and he really did look good for us last season. Another great pickup for Marc Bergevin. And in the end, if he ends up being a depth defenseman for us, that's great as well. But I love this contract for the Montreal Canadiens. You absolutely couldn't go wrong with a 3-year $1.85 million deal for Brett Kulak. Then we have Noah Juulsen, dealt with some those injuries last year, took the puck in the face twice in the same spot. Like, come on, what are the chances of that? Broke some facial structure there. Had to get restructural surgery of some sort in his cheek. Dealt with some vision problems, but he is healthy and ready for training camp. He really helped us survive the Shea Weber injury early in the season. He played very well in the Montreal Canadiens top 4, filling in there. Looked really, really good for us. And he is only he's 22, and he's making $8.63 million per year. He's a restricted free agent next year. Another guy you're gonna want to be able to lock up and extend long term, especially if he comes back from these injuries and looks as good as he did last year. He has a ton of room to grow. 22 years old, played in the World Juniors. He's physical. Last year he had 1 goal, 4 assists for 5 points in 21 games. But yeah, sound defensively, responsible player, makes the right plays, has looked good in every league that he's played in throughout his career so far. I really like Noah Juulsen. I like how he's developing so far. I think the sky's the limit for this guy as a defenseman, especially with Shea Weber mentoring him. It's going to be very interesting. So this is a guy a year from now we're going to want to lock up, hopefully, and likely Bergevin gets him on a fairly team-friendly deal as well. Looking really good here, the way that this Montreal Canadiens defensive structure in the cap and really how it's lined up is built right now. Of course, we could use a left-handed defenseman that could fill in the top four, play with Shea Weber. We all know that, but nonetheless, right now, we have capable players. And like I said, Montreal had a very good season last year with this exact same roster, and the entire roster is staying together outside of maybe guys like Hugh Don and Jordy Ben, who has recently been said will be testing free agency. So this team, such a good season last year, and staying together. It's unreal. So follow that up. After Noah Juleson, we have Christian Folin. Montreal signed him. He looked good for the Habs last year, filling in a bit on the right side after he came in from that trade with Dale Weiss from the Philadelphia Flyers. Signed him for $800,000. No risk, no reward there. He'll be an unrestricted free agent at the end of that. I figure he'll fill in the 5-6 spot for now. He's another guy at a good age, 28 years old. He's a big body. I liked how he found shooting lanes last year as well. That was what impressed me about him the most. I wouldn't have thought that. Any chance he had to shoot the puck from the point, he took it. Wrist shots, slap shots, whatever he needed to do. He's a big body, and great fill-in for the 5-6, and maybe he can even fill in the top 4 depending on if the Habs have injuries. Love that signing for the Montreal Canadiens. Great depth for the Habs. And then we have Mike Riley. He's a restricted free agent. I'm very curious what's going on with Mike Riley. I really liked him for stints on and off last season. I thought he really did move the puck well at points. He had some fairly big defensive mistakes, though, and that really bothers the coach. There was a situation, I think, during the season 2 where he got in a little bit of an argument with Max Domi on the ice. It was probably nothing, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with Mike Riley here. I feel like he will hold some value, whether it's even just a 3rd or 4th round pick that Bergevin can bring in or include him in a package, some sort of other trade package if he isn't willing to sign him. He's a restricted free agent, so Montreal's looking good in that sense. The stats he had last year, if I can just find him here, Mike Riley had 3 goals, 8 assists, 11 points in 57 games, 25 years old, so he really should have the best years of hockey ahead of him. If he can get those defensive mistakes out of his game and continue to improve his puck movement, who knows what he can become. But if Montreal isn't willing to sign him, they could maybe get a pick for him or exchange him for another restricted free agent somewhere around the league who's looking for a fresh start. But it'll be interesting to see. And if Montreal does sign him, I could see it just being short term and low AAV, low cap hit. So that's about it for the defenseman. I really do like how Montreal's defense is structured moving forward. We got a good balance of physical defensemen, shutdown defensemen, and some puck movement with Jeff Petrie. And you know what? I totally miss Victor Mete. So before I get into that, Victor Mete, 7.48 or 748,000 per season. He is a restricted free agent. Another guy you don't want to lose. He has played incredibly sound defensively. Still hasn't scored a goddamn goal in the NHL, but it is definitely coming. He just has to improve that shot, be able to find the net. He really struggles getting the puck through traffic and shooting it hard enough to be a threat to score at this point. But he did have 13 assists in 71 games. He's 20 years old. He's so young. He's a smaller guy, but he uses that speed, that active stick to shut guys down. I have never seen a guy this young, this good defensively. He looks really damn good playing with Shea Weber. And once again, with a guy like Shea Weber mentoring Victor Mete, sky is the limit for a guy like him. 4th round pick, and he's looking like an absolute steal at that spot. Now, we'll have to see how his season goes next year, but he'll be a restricted free agent after this year. And I can't see him earning a massive raise, especially where he's so young, but something to be ready for moving forward. Lots of young guys that could potentially be looking for fairly decent raises in a few years. Like I already mentioned, Gallagher, Max Domi, go down the list, Kotkaniemi, Ryan Poehling, We got Lehkonen and Armia up, of course. Victor Mete. So Noah Juleson. Yes, really. Bergevin said it today in his press conference. You got to be careful moving forward when July 1st comes along, unrestricted free agent period. You don't want to throw a bunch of money at a guy and then bring in a guy that you then likely can't deal away because you've given him a no movement clause if you're signing him on July 1st. These guys are kind of in the driver's seat, the players, on July 1st if you're an unrestricted free agent. So you sign a guy, you're then unable to trade him, and you lose a guy that you drafted or you really didn't want to lose. So you got to be careful moving forward, and you really got to be savvy. But of course, you always want to take your opportunities to bring in elite skill onto the team. If Duchesne is it, then go for it. But you really have to be careful about throwing off your cap structure, because Duchesne, for example, would be a guy who's demanding a ton of money. And of course, you can check my video on the Duchesne rumors to Montreal. Put that up a couple weeks ago. Everything you need to know about that is in there. So let's move on. Let's go into the goalies. We have Carey. Actually, you know what? Before that, we're just going to go over some other team stats. I don't want to miss anything. Our average ice time leaders. Want to get into that. Weber, 23-29, his average. He led the right side defense. Then after that, Petrie with 23-07, and then Ben with 18-12. That was our right D. On the left D, Riley actually led in ice time, 18-41. This is what I mean. This guy, he could be a guy that has some more left in the tank, maybe a little higher ceiling than we think. It'll be interesting to see what goes on with his contract status with the Habs and if he'll be around. But I'm really curious about this guy. Then on the left, Kulak 17.51 and Mete then with 17.46. Very balanced minutes on the left side D. Then our forwards, Philip Deneau 17.47. Led our team in average ice time. He faces top competition every night, sound defensively every night, shown consistency in all around his game. Such an impressive player. I can't say enough good things about Deneau. A lot of people, I think, are still sleeping on this guy. He's now getting recognized as one of the best defensive players in the league. Last year, 12 goals, 41 points. 12 goals, 41 assists for 53 points. That is seriously impressive. And not only that, leads a team in ice time. Following that, we have Domi, 17.23. Great to see a young guy like him getting that many minutes. Then we have Drouin, 16.56. He's got a real... third most in our forwards for ice time. If he's getting that ice time, he definitely has to find ways to finish plays and get on the board and remain consistent throughout the season. But you know me, massive Drouin fan. I really think he's going to be a guy putting up similar numbers to Max Domi, especially if these guys end up playing together in the long term. And it looks like obviously these two are going to be around the team for a very long time. Then we have Tatar, 16.25, played quite a few minutes. Then Gallagher, 16.24. Shaw, 15.55. Armia, 15.48 average. Kotkaniemi, 13.44. That's impressive for Kotkaniemi, averaging 13 minutes and 44 seconds a game as the youngest player in the NHL. Very, very impressive. Deneau led our team in face-off percentage with 55%. Domi, that's somewhere where he can improve, obviously. Actually, before I mention that, Deneau, 55% for 7th in the NHL. Deneau is 7th in the NHL in face-off wins, 882 face-off wins total. Kotkaniemi, 46% in his rookie season. Not bad for a rookie, and he did take quite a few face-offs with 359 wins. That is actually very impressive for an 18-year-old rookie. Very impressive. Andrew Shaw, 47%. Then we have Thompson and Wheel, late additions to the team. Ended up being a couple of our best face-off guys. 55% for Thompson, 55% for Wheel. They were solid for us. Like I said, Petrie, our best hitter, led the team in hits. Delorier, after that, 135. Then Weber, then Shaw, then Gallagher. We have a fairly physical team. Not the biggest team after guys like Weber and Delorier, but they still are willing to lay the body. We forecheck hard, and we have the skill to balance that out as well. Then leaders in blocks, Jordy Ben with 128. This guy really should earn a decent payday in unrestricted free agency. I'll be interested to see where he goes. He's a great 5'6" defenseman. Ton of respect for what he did for the team. Seemed like he was a great guy, good in the locker room. We'll miss him if he does decide to leave the team, for sure. Then Petrie with 123 blocks, then Weber with 110 despite only playing 53 games. Or 58 games. And then Mete, 95 blocks, and Kulak after that was 64. Deneau with 60 blocks as a forward. That is impressive. One of the reasons why he's considered one of the better defensive forwards in the NHL. Such a good player, man. Kotkaniemi, though, trailing right behind him with 41 blocks. Solid, man. Solid. Love it. Carey Price's stats last year, .918 save percentage. He ended up finishing 7th in votes for the Vezina. Incredibly strong season for him. He's obviously making that $10.5 million deal. The first year of that was last year, and he's got another 7 years left. This guy, clearly pillar of this organization, one of the best leaders in the game, one of the best goalies in the game, positionally sound, his ability to play the puck, his desperation saves. He just makes, and he really doesn't even have to make that many desperation saves because he makes saves look so easy because of his positioning. He's got a great glove hand, just absolute stud. We are another guy incredibly fortunate to have on our team moving forward for the foreseeable future, likely until his retirement. The guy's a stud. I'm thankful he's on our team. The stuff he does for the community, for his own community, for the Montreal community, for this team as a leader, what he does to make Montreal such a competitive team. Love that he was drafted and developed by the Montreal Canadiens. Major success story for this franchise. Now leads the franchise in wins, which is absolutely unbelievable. That was one of the best moments of the year last year. You can check my video on that to get my full reaction. Got a little bit of emotional in that one, but it was a big moment for the Montreal Canadiens and for Carey Price, and he's such a leader. Gets a picture with his entire team after that. One of the best moments of the season for sure. Gonna remember that for a long time. He finishes the year with 35 wins in 66 games played. Dude played 66 games. We definitely need to limit his games played. That's pushing way too many games, but we were in such a tight race at the end. We kind of had to push him through all that many games, and he was a stud to end the season. Some of the saves he was making, absolutely just you can't even believe some of the stuff he does. There's way too many to even talk about the saves that he makes. 35 wins, 24 losses, and six overtime or shootout losses. Then our backup, Antti Niemi, struggled in this position. He is an unrestricted free agent. He won't be returning to the team. 17 games played, 8 wins. Struggled to end the season. He started off well for us, and he did get a few wins for us early, but towards the end of the season, his statistics dropped very, very low. Finished with a .887 goals against average, and a 3.78, a .887 save percentage and a 3.78 goals against. Montreal's roster currently consists of 14 forwards on the books, and that does not include Arturi Lehkonen and Yoel Armia, who are restricted free agents looking for contracts. Maybe we'll see guys like Pekka Ruiz hit waivers or be traded. But anyway, 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, and 2 goalies. 14 forwards, 7 defensemen, 2 goalies. That is a full NHL roster, and the Habs still have $10.7 million in cap space. Of course, there's areas that this team improved. We've talked about them a lot already, but left side defense, a partner for Shea Weber, someone in the top 4 to help that power play, and of course, maybe a right-handed power forward, right winger would be ideal as well. And will that backup goalie backup situation be remedied with a veteran goalie? We'll have to wait and see, but room to move. The Montreal Canadiens are in a good position to improve their team moving forward. Marc Bergevin's ability to carefully manage a cap and his asset management is next to nothing in the NHL. I really believe those are 2 qualities that makes him one of the best general managers in the NHL. I know some people will laugh at that, maybe some Habs fans as well, but I don't care. I strongly believe it, wholeheartedly believe it. And out of all the GMs in the league, how many have as much trade success as he does? It's unbelievable. And these are trades that he was ridiculed for in the media at first, and they're all looking solid. Such a strong general manager, no controversies going on with this team. He addressed the attitude issue moving into this season, and it's just strange to me that still in the media people are looking for excuses to, you know, say say bad things about this team, not get us hyped up about what's happening moving forward. I think people are seriously sleeping on the Montreal Canadiens as an organization moving forward. The players definitely have to prove it, but the skill and the talent and the young core is there. They're all going to grow together, and it's all thanks to Marc Bergevin and Trevor Timmins, all their work that they've put into this team, among the rest of their management team, their scouts, their pro scouts, their amateur scouts. And they have a big week moving forward. Free agency, of course, and the draft. That is absolutely huge for this organization moving forward. Some of the most memorable parts of last season for me, first and foremost, Plekanec's retirement ceremony, absolute class from the organization. That was a big moment for the season. I love what Marc Bergevin did, bringing him in on that 1-year contract. Decent money too, just over $2 million. Plays a few games, scores a goal. That was a massive goal in his last game for the Montreal Canadiens against the Detroit Red Wings. That was so good to see. He's been one of my favorite players for so long. He was really Montreal's 1C for such a long time. He had seasons where he put up over 70 points, one of the best defensive centers in the league through his prime years. Impressive player for us, so that was a big moment for me. I love seeing that retirement ceremony. Bergevin and Molson in the turtlenecks. Gonna miss that turtleneck. Plecky's been hilarious on Twitter since he's left the Montreal Canadiens. He's over in Europe playing, but he's still chirping players. So he's having fun over there, and I can't wait to see him back in the Bell Center. Would be very interested to see if he comes back as a coach at some point. That would be absolutely fantastic. Love the guy, ton of respect for him. So that was huge for me. Love that moment. Following that, it was just so cool to see all the players kind of learn together, develop together, and then have career years. A lot of guys had a ton to prove, and I hope they go into the next season having that same chip on the shoulder where we didn't accomplish our full goal of making the playoffs, but these guys are hungry for it. I bet you a ton of them watched it and desperately want to get in. But yeah, definitely seeing all these guys have career years, put up a ton of points together, seeing the chemistry that the Deneau, Gallagher, and Tatar line had, absolutely fantastic. Defensively sound, putting up points, the skill, the speed. Following that, then you had Max Domi in the second line spot, played with Drouin for half the season, looked so good. That was a lot of fun. Andrew Shaw played really well on that line. Then with the third line, Kotkaniemi, that line was great throughout the season, sound defensively with Armia and Lehkonen. Byron had some injury troubles, but he looked good throughout the lineup. Just a ton of guys with career years, and it goes for the defense too. Petrie, even Ben had a career year. That was really cool to see. It really excites you moving forward for the state of this team. Another favorite moment for me, obviously, Price's beating the record and the ceremony for that. That was really just surreal to even be able to witness that in our lifetime. That's such a significant record, such a cool moment for the 2018-19 season. And then that race to the end, it was so exciting. I did so many videos throughout the run there. Was so great talking to you guys throughout the season. That was definitely by far one of the coolest things for me this season, was managing to get this channel going, meeting so many cool people online, getting this viewership. It's been absolutely fantastic. It's so surreal that I even have this and I'm able to do this, and I'm so glad that I can provide this type of content for you guys. That was seriously a highlight for me, being able to talk hockey, passion of mine, talk the Montreal Canadiens, and it be a positive season overall. And not to pat myself on the back, but I kind of predicted that early in the season, and I'm glad it panned out, because I was overly confident in what I was saying, but I truly did believe in this roster, and I believe in them moving forward 100%. No questions asked. Like I said a million times, love how they're built all around. But yeah, it was a great season. Chat with you guys doing this, and that's definitely going to be something I remember. And I seriously do hope you guys love the content. A ton more to come. As always, thanks for watching. Let me know what you thought about the video down in the comments. Hit that subscribe button if you like my content. Lots of good stuff coming over the off season. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook @Scotian Canadian. Cheers, guys. Go Habs, go!